Hey guys, it's Josh from the WInestain Journey and Analysis channel with my friend Justin from the CuJoProductions channel. And we're gonna go ahead and look at some movies. Me and him both are actually educated in the video field, and both of us tend to like to go through and look at horror movies and actually really look at the technique and what's going on of that nature. And so we decided that we would go through and watch some movies together and give our analysis on the matter, our thoughts, and if anything jumped out to us. The first movie that we wanted to start with was Halloween, because it's such like highly regarded movie. John Carpenter does a very good job with the low budget that he was given during this time. And we really wanted to really check that out and give our thoughts on the matter. So I kind of thought I would let you go ahead and give kind of your overall take on the movie itself, and then we can kind of start going through and give our ideas on certain parts of the movies in general.
Well, I thought it was, I mean, you know, like you said, it's a highly regarded film. I mean, John Carpenter is a name that is incredibly well known throughout the just the film industry in general. I mean, there's a ton of films he's made. But anyway, I'm getting way off topic. So as far as Halloween goes, from 1978, I actually really enjoyed it. There are some things about it. Definitely has. You can tell that's where like a lot of the seeds for horror film tropes was planted.
Oh, definitely.
And I think in that terms, you could argue maybe it hasn't aged well, but I argue it was the 70s. The slasher genre hadn't even really been like a thing yet. It was barely a thing, and no pun intended on thing. But overall, I still really enjoyed it. I thought it was more quiet and subtle than I remember. It's not as like gritty as it might sound. It is like a slasher film, you know. So that is definitely a bit of a loose term, at least in terms of like today's standards. But again, this film was made in '78, so bearing that in mind, I actually really enjoy it.
Yeah, definitely. I think when you look at the movie in general, that was one thing that really stood out to me, was that as much as I remember the movie being scary, it was really surprising me how subtle the movie really was, and how much of it actually was more very quiet, very just you listening and watching. Literally for most of the movie, nothing happened. And that's kind of where I think our conversation stemmed before we started filming, about how I felt like a good majority of this movie feels like it doesn't age well, is because though there are very strong horror scenes, like the scene where she's sitting there with the door frame and he comes in, and in the shadow of his face is the first thing you see as he walks in the frame. Things of those tend to last longer and tend to be stronger aspects, I think, that do transcend time. But a lot of what you were saying about how a lot of these tropes came around, you could definitely see that. Like a lot of the movie tends to be just following a group of teenagers around, pretty much, in babysitting. And though these are very simple ideas, it really kind of brings you in because it's a very simple concept. A lot of people, I mean, I used to babysit. I know you used to babysit. Oh, yeah. So the idea of babysitting. You have a little sister, so yeah, of course I did.
But
yeah, like the idea of babysitting, and then like someone attacking you and your loved ones is pretty, like, it's definitely something that hits close to home.
That's another thing, is how simple it is. I think for me, simplicity is key, and it doesn't have to be any over complicated story or anything. That for me, and I don't want to get. I mean, obviously, we're not going to get into the sequels too much, but like I think that was the problem as the sequels went on, is they got too stupid after a while.
Yeah,
it just after a while became a mess. But as far as the first one goes, I think the simplicity actually worked in its favor, and I think that's why everyone still looks back at this film and says, "Yeah, this is really good." And I agree. I thought it was really good. I enjoyed it.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think when you look at the storytelling and just how the story, like the movie itself, builds, and what really is the strengths of it is the fact that the movie itself is very established in reality. There isn't like those like outlandish things that happen that pull you away from something that makes you feel like it really could. I mean, Michael himself and the outlandish ability of him to survive, just the amount of trauma that he survives is one thing. But I mean, to say that there haven't been men and women that have somehow miraculously walked away from situations like that or worse would be me being a liar.
A lot of strange things have happened. And I think for the film it actually works in its favor because it starts to make you think, is this guy even human after a while?
Yeah, I definitely agree.
Is this guy even human? What is this guy?
Well, yeah, and I think that's the one thing that is very misconstrued about Michael Myers in general is that technically the man that is established in the original Halloween movie, the one we've watched, he is just supposed to be a man, and he's not supposed to be anything more than that. So the idea of this large man who's just outlandishly strong just because he was just built that way. He is.
I don't remember him being like super like bulky in the not in the 70s, not in the one we just watched anyway.
No, but I mean, he exudes enough strength to literally pick a man up with one hand.
With one hand, so yeah,
and then stab a knife through him to the point that it stuck him to the wall.
He is pretty strong. So for a guy like that, doesn't appear like huge.
I mean, in theory, I think the man.
Then again, there was.
Go ahead.
There was multiple people playing him in this one that the original, the one we just watched.
Was there? See that I wasn't aware of that.
Yeah, there was like there's multiple people that played him, so it's actually kind of interesting because
because when you watch him and you see him, like, he does stand taller than the boyfriend does, and he does pick him up.
Yeah.
So like he definitely shows that he's strong. But like I think that was one of the reasons why him walking was done, not only to be menacing because it's like I'm walking at you, I'm not even giving all that I have to get you. Like I'm just going to get you. I'm confident in that. But the fact that he's walking, I think, is supposed to kind of bring back some of that human factor because he exudes so much endurance and strength. I think that the choice to make him walk is supposed to actually be the idea of him bringing more of a human side, more of a weakness to him. Does he precede Jason?
Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, then I would say
it came out before Friday the 13th.
Okay, yeah. I thought so. But I just wanted to confirm that before I said it. But yeah, like Michael walking, I think that concept, not only is it supposed to create a menacing feel, but it's supposed to also kind of bring a little bit of weakness to the character, I think. Because what it does is it makes it so that in theory your victims are able to outrun these people. So it's supposed to be like kind of like as strong as these characters are when they grab you, there's always that I can escape them potential.
Oh yeah.
So like I think that's what makes like the slashers like Michael Myers and Jason in that realm I think scarier than someone like a Freddy Krueger, like in like the slasher part of it all, because of the fact that
there's more realism.
That too, but there's a menacing feel to it because it's not only when I get my hands on you, are you done, but I'm confident enough that I can chase you down at a walk.
Yep. And
I'm going to get you.
Yeah, and there is something really like I even picked up on a few things. I said there is some really unsettling like shots in the 78, the version we just watched, the Carpenter film.
Yeah.
Like the scene where he's dragging the one girl into the friggin' house and the kid sees him, and like that was pretty unsettling. Like the idea of like seeing that happen is like, whoa.
No, it's very.
There's something off.
Yeah, I think it's that is one thing that I noticed, and I had said something to you during, is that there was a lot of uses of wide shots throughout the film, especially showing off the house. And when I made that comment, that scene had not happened yet, where he had seen her be carried into the house by Michael. And it makes more sense at that point because now he's established these wide shots that are wide open, showing off nothing at these points. But now all of a sudden you have a character coming in from the darkness off the side.
Yeah, that was really well done.
Yeah, and if you look, and it's one thing that I've noticed, and I don't know if it was one of those, I don't know how many lights he used outside of the actual house itself. But there is a lot of directional lighting creating a lot of these natural shadows. And it works very well because then you have a lot of these moments where even if the camera would have watched Michael as he crossed into the next area of the house or something of that nature, they would have lost him in the dark at some point. And I found it very interesting. It's not quite noir, but it has that same style where there's a lot of like heavy dark shadows right on top of these contrasting lights. And I know it's a horror film, that's a lot of what you're supposed to do, but that was the first thing I thought of, was like this noir style where the lights are used almost they're done in a way with like barn doors and stuff where they're cut very strongly, almost like they're using cookies or something.
Yeah, it's really cool. Another part that sticks out to me was that part was like when he killed the boyfriend. We were just talking about when he lifted him and put a knife through him, and he had like he put the sheet over him and had the glasses on. Like,
yes.
It was funny at first, and then it just got really uncomfortable, and it's like, that was intentional. It was like, oh yeah, it's pretty funny, and then it's like, okay, joke's over, you can stop now, kind of thing. And I thought it was done really well. I actually think that was one of the better scenes in the film.
No, I agree. At first, I thought it was it took me out at first.
Yeah.
But you're right. You go through the same process as the audience, as the character in the movie, which is done
clever.
Well, it's done very well because it creates this immersion. Because like not only is it feel real, but now they're creating situations that also establish that, which I think you're right, it's very well done. And it was like, because you're right, there is that definitely, like, there's a point as you're sitting there and you're waiting for something to happen, and Michael's just staring and staring.
Yeah, and
it is creepy.
It's there's something off.
One thing I will say, and it's just it stood out to me as strange, is Carpenter's choice with the use of nudity. Well, no, honestly, I found it strange. There were times where
he wasn't afraid to like show little tits here.
Yeah, like he was. There were times where the nudity was blatant.
Oh yeah,
but then there were other times,
like one where you just like barely, like it won't even go below.
Yeah, like then there was other times where the camera was the shots were purposely shot at an angle where it was stopped at the chest.
Yeah, you can slightly see like some cleavage, but nothing major.
Yeah, and the thing that stood out to me about that is because it's like there's obviously this point of like this sex appeal and this teasing that he's doing.
Yeah.
But I found it kind of strange because of the way that it went, because it was something that stood out to me, because he would take within the first 5 minutes when Michael kills his sister, there's she is half naked.
Yeah, she is. Yeah.
But
she just had sex.
And then the one young woman, like, they make a point to not show her straight on at first, but then they'll let it slip out with the shirt on. And I always wondered if it was a design choice, as in like Carpenter trying to put on this like teasy kind of feel, or if it was honestly, because it's supposed to be kind of like this like flirtation Because, well, when you think about it, what outside of, I mean, even outside of Laurie, who he was everyone he was killing was people that were like sinning, like making love, whatever you want to call it.
I kind of thought they were just like side characters meant to be like
but if you notice though,
Laurie was definitely the most like.
But everyone that died in that movie had sex.
Yeah,
on screen.
Yeah, well.
I mean, so it's like I found that kind of the demonizing of sex.
The guy he killed and when Loomis was going around, we found the truck. I remember it panned over and there was the one dead dude in the bushes.
Okay, so there's
one guy that dies off screen.
4 or 5.
Yeah, there's like one guy that dies off screen wasn't pretty sure he wasn't having sex in that truck.
Never know. Well, actually, his clothes was missing. There was clothes that were hanging.
Yeah, probably that was probably the boiler suit because when he jumped onto one girl's car, he still had he had just escaped from the asylum. So
yeah, I guess that's true. You're right.
So he still had that on. So I just kind of assumed it was like a boiler guy, and he just took the suit from him. That's why he killed him.
Here's my thing: is if he was, so that means he just drove him off the road, beat his ass, took his suit, like fuck you, and left.
Probably, yeah. He did steal the car.
It's true though.
He stole the
here's
car
the thing. Here's the thing. Yeah, he stole that car, but he kept that car. So he literally drove that man off the road, beat his ass, took his boiler suit, and it was like, fuck you, goodbye.
Yep, it was like, yep, now I'm off to go kill a bunch of teenagers.
Well, and that's kind of, I've been kind of holding off a little because I know this is going to be kind of controversial, but like when you look at this movie, I really truly believe that at least about 70% of this movie doesn't age well.
Well, I mean, it was, and I think that attests to the time it was made in the 70s.
Yeah, because I feel like there were plot, like the plot itself. Yes, it's supposed to be simple, but there are times. Yeah, I found myself just rolling my eyes.
And there are moments where it kind of. Well, I even said, "Wow, these girls are annoying." Her friends.
Yeah.
Yeah, there were moments where I thought, "Oh my god," you know.
Well, it was just like when I was making fun of Laurie when she was sitting there on that glass door that's getting held by the rake.
Yeah,
and she's just sitting there and waiting. As soon as Michael comes in, then she finally decides that it's finally time to shove her hand through the glass.
Bust the glass open.
It's like those things are like, why?
It is. Why would? I mean, and I mean there are definitely moments where you can kind of nit and pick and choose and whatnot. It's not 100% solid, like perfect across the board. I agree. There are moments where I was like, oh my god. And I mean, like I said, I thought the friends were fucking annoying. I really did. I thought
I truly
irritating.
Yeah, but I think
totally. But again,
that's the point, though.
I was just gonna say again, it was the 70s. So
during that time,
and they're high school girls. They're supposed to be like chatty and.
Well, but in that time, that's how that was. They also talked that way. So
that was the time. It was you look back. I'm sure when we were in fucking middle school and high school, you probably could pick and choose a lot of shit we were saying that we would look back on and go. Wow.
But so like when I was
I can see your point.
But when you look at the film in general, you're right. There are a lot of when you look at the film in general, there's a lot of tropes that are created through horror, like the horror tropes that are created, or at least you could see that were being developed at this time, like the sex kills, there's the woman with tits that is shown within the first 5 minutes of the movie, the automatic first kill in the very beginning of the movie. You also have the what's it called? The child characters that are always yelling and screaming at the teenagers. There's a lot of these tropes are set up here, and it's funny because during the time when this came out, these were all kind of fresh takes, so they really stood out and they really kind of like gripped people and brought them in. But like now, like we were talking, like I felt like I was griping to you about it because it was like, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
So it's
like I think if you show somebody the movie now, they wouldn't see how they might look at it differently than if you didn't tell them it was made in '78, maybe, I don't know. But
yeah, the strength of the movie isn't quite as there. If you would have watched it 20 years ago or something.
Yeah. Oh yeah. It's definitely a different time kind of thing. But I'm saying that's what I'm saying. I see your point about it like not aging well in a sense that like it definitely carries a lot of the '70s with it. '70s tropes, anyway.
Now since we're talking about weird and strange and kind of that, we have to talk about Loomis as a character in general. Because, like I said while we were watching the movie, there are at least 3 separate occasions where looks like you have caught him pissing into a bush. He's just literally standing on top of a bush, watching the neighborhood, and it's like, I understand that you're trying to chronicle him going through this process too. It's supposed to be your B story throughout the movie, but the thing that kills me is as much as it's supposed to be this B story, you find yourself rolling your eyes anytime he's on screen because not only is there not anything really happening during these sequences, but like when I made the jokes, like when the sheriff would come up and like ask him a question, Dr. Loomis would just be like, "No, you listen to me. Go this way. Go now." It's like, wait a minute. Like this is you're telling the police officer what to do. Hold on a second.
It did seem like that Loomis's scenes were around for expositional kind of things, like to kind of advance the plot, which fair enough.
It truly felt like Loomis's scenes were shot completely separate and added in.
I could see that.
Because, like, to be honest with you,
I could see that.
If we cut out Loomis's scenes, including Michael's breakout, and you just have Michael come back and attack, like, just somehow, and you fill it in somehow else. And you got rid of Loomis. You could have the story almost be the same and just have the story be 45 minutes.
You would have to have somebody else kill Michael then.
True.
Kill Michael.
Well, here's my thing though, is like Laurie stabbed him 3 separate occasions. Any of those 3 could have been it.
Yeah, it could have. I think, like I said about Loomis, I think what he serves as expositional things. Because if you notice, he's the one giving like a lot of backstory on Michael.
Yeah,
and a lot of like.
But then there comes the argument of the don't tell, show.
Yeah, show don't tell kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, that's true too. But I think in this instance, if there's going to be some exposition, I don't mind it, especially with Loomis's dialogue being kind of like as grim as it was about how he would describe him. I felt like it added, but I could also see, show don't tell.
See, the reason why I argue this way is the runtime is only 90 minutes.
Yeah,
if the runtime was 2 hours, you would be completely valid. But because the runtime is only 90 minutes, I really feel like they could have added another 15 minutes of like trying to kind of fill in, because I feel like Loomis's scenes, they're jarring because there seems to be a lot that happens in between each scene, and there doesn't seem to be a lot that happens during the scenes, Like it seems like the passage of time happens more outside of his scenes rather within the scenes, and more happens for him that way.
You should probably check out the TV cut then, because they actually added scenes.
Really? There's a TV cut?
They had to film some. They actually filmed some scenes with Loomis and Michael as a child. I think because I was when I would watch the Monster Madness. Mm-hmm. That's where I learned that from.
Okay.
From James Rolfe.
Well, maybe that'll be something to look into then.
Yeah, but I'm just saying there is another cut of the film where they add some of they do add more like story to it.
Here's the thing though, if they felt the need to have to make a cut where they had to add more to the film to cover issues within the film, then that probably means that there's a hole or two within your plot, you know?
Oh yeah, I mean there might. I mean yeah, there. As far as plot goes, yeah, I can see that.
Yeah, I can see
that.
that.
So I don't know if that was like on the like they just didn't they just fell short of like a time slot on TV due to like lack of looking into how long they needed to make the movie, or if they just or if like when it was being adapted for TV they just thought, wow, there's something missing here. Maybe they didn't like all the exposition. They thought this is a little boring. Let's add something else. You know?
Right.
I don't know the backstory on that. I just know that when it was like being adapted for TV, they had to film some extra scenes. So it is apparently worth checking out. I haven't seen it yet. The version we just watched is the only one I've ever seen, at least of the 70 version.
Right.
So I don't have any comments about any of the extra scenes, but I do know it exists.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, that was kind of there was another thing I thought was kind of cool about the actual movie though is that John Carpenter, you were telling me how he really took inspiration from The Thing, and I just found it really funny because he has The Thing in the movie, and then he goes on to actually make a telling of The Thing. So it's just like foreshadowing him making another movie later, and it's just really funny because I don't know how many people
homage to The Thing.
Yeah, and then he makes his own copy of it later.
Yeah, he did.
You know?
He made it. Well, he remade
so it's like,
it. You know?
So yeah, like he was foreshadowing his.
Yeah.
So it's really
well,
funny.
If you watch, have you ever seen the original like Thing? I actually haven't. I'm not even gonna go there because I haven't seen the original.
No, I haven't either. But no, I think but that's
it is kind of interesting because I have seen the John Carpenter version of the Thing. I haven't seen the original, like the 50s version, but I've seen the Carpenter remake. I love that one. I thought it was great.
Yeah, it makes you really think if he knew or like if he was in the works or if it was just he was just trying to pay homage at that point, you know. That's another thing.
It's really cool.
Yeah, like I think you could definitely see that there is some kind of there's influence there, like just in the very like tone, the very grim tone. That's the one thing I think that Halloween does the best at is as much as the story itself doesn't actually or like the story itself like we were talking there has issues. I think the tone that it sets, no matter what actually is being told on screen, is very, very strong. I think it's you immediately within the first 30 seconds of the movie, because of the score of the music coming in, you know exactly what to expect, what's going on, like, and you know what tone to expect. You know that you're going to be uncomfortable throughout this movie. You know that there shit's going to happen, you know. So like I thought that was one thing I could really respect is that, you know, so but yeah, so I think like I think the tone of the film itself is really like one of the strongest points, and I think that's actually where I think Carpenter deserves the most respect, is because not only was he able to tell this story, he was able to set this tone, and then on top of it he was able to set all these tropes that came with it.
Oh yeah.
So, and you can definitely tell like he sewed up his part of history in that, and he really definitely changed the genre of horror as a whole. But I think that's where we're going to call it for today, though. Next time, me and Justin are actually going to cover the Rob Zombie remake of Halloween. So tune in for that, where we go ahead and try to check that out, and then we might even compare the two one day. So, see you then, guys.
That could be fun.